New faces and old places? Wait, old faces and new places. Whatever. We're talking about players that have moved, and fantasy football GMs need to think about the situation. Let's talk about Austin Eckler. I want to know what he's going to do with the Commanders. It's great he doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting, Bloom. We'll get to the Commanders situation, but it leaves a Chargers situation where they're going to run the hell out of the ball if the two former Ravens backs can actually stay healthy and Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins kicking around. And I just thought it would be interesting to look
Yeah.
at these new situations for these old players that we used to rely on so heavily, like Austin Eckler.
Yeah, Cease. I think that the starting remark I'll say here is what we are doing, other than just looking for interesting things out of the trickle of stuff coming out of OTAs, coach comments, and things like that, is thinking about change. This is why this is a great topic to keep on our minds until training camp starts. Because what you want to grapple with right now is what do you think about these changes? What do you think about what's going to happen? As you said, there's new faces, and we can talk about new faces in the coaching staff in both of these places too. But there's also taking a stand. And then we wait for news out of training camp, we watch preseason, and we revise and adjust as we get new information. So in these backfields, on the Washington side, I think the biggest question with Eckler is how much do you think he was affected by this ankle all year last year? And remember, this is a guy we were debating, Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler a year ago. Has he really fallen off that much? Alternatively, you could say it doesn't matter whether he's fallen off that much because you look at his salary and you look at Brian Robinson. And remember, Brian Robinson was a player that the joke was, oh, I accidentally took Brian Robinson in the first round instead of Bijan Robinson. Actually, I'm glad I did for a good part of the year last year. And he was getting more involvement in the passing game. And you could easily see Austin Eckler having an Antonio Gibson role, type sized role in this offense, which means that Robinson is the guy you want. And look, they're both going in the 8th, 9th round. You're probably not going to hit a home run with either of these guys unless one of them goes down for a significant part of the year. But there probably is going to be at least one winner. How big of a winner is going to depend on what you think about Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels and their ability to get this offense to jump out on people and put them. We're talking about pace. I think you're going to see a faster paced offense. And it could be an offense, well, maybe they're both winners if this is a good offense. On the Chargers side, it's a little more straightforward as far as, yeah, they're going to run the ball. You have Gus Edwards, who's kind of the default option. J.K. Dobbins, who, when healthy, has been a really good running back. He just hasn't been healthy. Will he ever truly be healthy again? And then Kamani Vidal. We got to mention Kamani Vidal. See, how many times do we look at these situations where you're like, well, this guy, he's okay, but his upside is capped. This guy could be good, but he never stays healthy. Who's the other guy? Well, in this case, the other guy is a guy we really like, a guy Matt Waldman really liked, a guy a lot of people really liked and said, who's my sleeper running back? It's Kamani Vidal out of Troy. So for them to get him on the third day, would it be surprising that even on merit, and I say on merit of where Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are in their careers, pre-injury Edwards and Dobbins, maybe they would blow Kamani Vidal out of the water. But Kamani Vidal on a team that wants to run, I think he's the guy. And the idea should be, again, who's your favorite? Or maybe some of these situations you might say none of them. But again, if you think Jim Harbaugh is going to be successful with a pretty good offensive line, got Joe Alt in addition to the other guys they have there. Had Matt Patonti on the couch last week. He said, hey, these guys are a good fit for Harbaugh ball, these offensive linemen.
Right.
So you want to be in on these situations. Which running back? Well, you take a stand right now, but remember to update that for whatever information we get later this summer.
Yeah, Vidal might be the guy. Now, two things that I think of in this situation is with a rookie quarterback, you're going to face stacked boxes, and I love Jaden Daniels. Uh, and running quarterback's going to open some things up, certainly. But I think of the Chargers and with Justin Herbert, I know it's Harbaugh ball, which I love that alliteration, Bloom.
Mm-hmm.
But Herbert's going to back you up. And I know the receivers, big question marks, whatever. I got Lad McConkey on my Mutt team on Madden.
Oh, yeah.
But like I understand that, but Herbert will back you up. So if I'm thinking light boxes with Vidal or Gus Edwards, that makes me pretty happy.
Yes, and maybe we're underestimating Justin Herbert in this passing game, just as an aside,
Sure.
because Jim Harbaugh might want to run, But if this team is behind in the second half, we're going to see Justin Herbert. And we saw there wasn't a, just a complete lack of downfield passing from J.J. McCarthy last year at Michigan. There's downfield passing, and Justin Herbert. Perhaps Justin Herbert, a la Josh Allen, sees if he's in a situation where everything is on him. Maybe you could see some different parts of his play come out. Jim Harbaugh is a good offensive coach. Look at what happened whenever Colin Kaepernick was a quarterback on a Jim Harbaugh team. He got some incredible offensive football out of him, and that was with Greg Roman, who's offensive coordinator after the Chargers. Greg Roman. So these guys have made some beautiful music together in the past with a piece at quarterback that wasn't nearly as talented a passer as Justin Herbert.
Well, let's talk about beautiful music and beautiful hair from Joe Burrow, but that's for
Is
another
it real?
show. I don't care.
You need to get that style on, Cecil.
Exactly. I'd have to cut my hair though. I don't know if I want to do that. Joe Mixon, Zach Moss. Now, out of Houston, we keep hearing this Dameon Pierce stuff. I was like, he's got to average over 3 yards a carry before I get real excited about Dameon Pierce. Okay, so Mixon's there. We've talked about the Houston offense a couple of weeks ago. It's very exciting, obviously, CJ Stroud, et cetera, et cetera. But Joe Mixon and the guy that replaces him, Zach Moss. Which one of these situations you putting your chips on?
I look at both of these guys as potential winners. With Houston, I'm afraid we've seen Dameon Pierce in Bobby Sloak's offense, and we saw Devin Singletary in Bobby Sloak's offense, who was pretty successful. And instead of bringing back Devin Singletary, this team traded for Joe Mixon, and most importantly, gave him an extension. And you might say Joe Mixon's on decline. He doesn't have the burst. He's not as dangerous in the passing game as he used to be. But we are looking at the Texans with CJ Stroud, with the addition of Stephon Diggs, with the tackle combination of Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard, some reinforcements on the interior offensive line. We'll see how that works out. This looks like potentially one of the premier offenses in the league. And history shows us that running back can just be a compiler position. You just show up, you take your touches, and the touchdowns will come and the yardage will come. So Dameon Pierce isn't really that much of a threat here. They like Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I think from a fantasy profile, Cease, is typically should be a third round running back. I mean, that's kind of the general value of a running back that is a lead running back, even an aging lead running back in a potentially top of the league, top 5 offense. Joe Mixon right now in the late 5th round over underdog. And I don't think there's an arbitrage play here. I think if Joe Mixon isn't good, if he really is declining, then I don't think Dameon Pierce is the arbitrage play. I just think that, more for CJ Stroud and company. But on the Cincinnati side, we have to ask ourselves some questions about Zach Moss, because Zach Moss, you have to ask yourself also, why is it these Buffalo running backs do so much more once they leave Buffalo? At least in the case of Singletary and Moss. And Moss revived career in Indianapolis for a good time early in the season before Jonathan Taylor was back or back up to speed. He was among, if not the leading rusher in the NFL. So he can take that down to Cincinnati. Also a very good offense. Maybe he, at this point, physically has even more to offer than Joe Mixon. He can take the opportunity, Joe Mixon. And then the other part of this is, what do you think about Chase Brown? I don't see Chase Brown as someone who takes over a backfield. I think Chase Brown brings something to a backfield that only Chase Brown can bring, which is that ability to take a screen pass and turn it into a touchdown, right? His ability to provide vertical speed and a true change of pace from a rugged runner like Zach Moss. But Zach Moss has good hands out of the backfield. Zach Moss has good feet. Zach Moss is obviously going to be the goal line option. So I think this is a potential big win. And again, I don't see, if you think Zach Moss turns back into a pumpkin, gets hurt basically like he was all the time in Buffalo, I don't know that Chase Brown is going to be that guy. But either way, Zach Moss is someone right now that is available in fantasy drafts. Oh, see, so I'm looking, and I have to scroll to 92nd.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like
So
that price tag.
yeah, I think what you're going to find as we step through these running back situations is there's a lot of value at running back. You don't have to go running back early this year, because when you get to the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th round, you're going to like, as I always like to say, different people might like different running backs, but there's going to be someone for you in those rounds.
Yes, someone for you for sure, and that's where I think with Zach Moss, the value's just too much there. The opportunity is too much there. We'll see. We'll see. Training camp, preseason. We're collecting the drum beats. We're listening ear to the ground. And I love Howie Roseman. I do it. So Saquon Barkley versus Devin Singletary. Let's talk about this and running backs that are replacing each other. And Saquon on a much better team and the Giants' problem. Hey, there's Singletary who's flashed away from Buffalo. I don't know how much flashing's there with Drew Lock or Daniel Jones.
Barkley, I can understand having it's hard to be lukewarm about Barkley, right? Either you think that because look, Barkley was going okay. Barkley is in the best offense he's been in his entire career, and a team paid him top of the line running back money that never pays running backs. So he's going later than he was going last year in the Giants offense, which we all knew was not going to be a very good offense. So either you think, and he didn't do great for us last year in fantasy football, but either you think it doesn't matter, you can take Barkley out of a poor offense and he's just a poor producer at this point, and then you're out on him. Or you can say, well, he's fine. It was his surroundings. And you put him in this offense, and there's hints too. I don't think we might see 15 tush push touchdowns from Hurts when you have a Barkley on the roster. So Barkley could easily finally be the fantasy football running back that everybody thought he was going to be at some point in his career. It just took a better team, just being on a better team, a good
Right.
offense, and not that I don't think that Barkley's the kind of guy that you think is, he's going to go down and miss most of the season or miss time. But, I mean, Will Shipley's interesting there. Let's just put that aside. Will Shipley is a really good receiving running back. They took him in the 4th round. That's a significant investment at running back in the draft, honestly. So if you hate Barkley, I wouldn't pick Barkley if he was there in the 3rd round. You might want to consider Shipley late, or just, let's watch and hear how he's doing in camp. I think he could probably overtake. He has a little more to offer than Kenneth Gainwell, I think, even though Gainwell's pretty established. But you look at the Giants side, Cease, and it's similar to the Chargers in so much as, okay, you've got Devin Singletary, always outproduces expectations. They gave him starter money for this year. You've got you got the running back they took last year, Eric Gray, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good all-around back.
Lots of speed.
Yeah, kind of like Chase Brown, like a solid role-playing back. But what about Tyrone Tracy? And see, I don't think we have yet acknowledged on this show that David Johnson retired. In in the annals of fantasy football, the David Johnson story is a wonderful story. Just
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much in there, right? There's like it's just a ploy to motivate Tatum Bell, like Bruce Arians motivating a rookie,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're all watching him, and then finally when he's unleashed, especially in that second year, like just it was everything everybody could have ever dreamed of. Tyrone Tracy is a running back that a lot of very smart football people. Lance Zierlein. See, how many times do you see Lance Zierlein come out with like a sleeper running back take in the draft? I mean, he's got better things to do, right, than throw crumbs to us fantasy football people. And he said, "This is Tyrone Tracy," and he's a converted wide receiver again. David Johnson vibes. It's easy. See, he's the kind of talent. And when I'm looking back at my rookie dynasty draft boards, one of the players I have a little remorse or ask myself, should I have moved him up, is Tyrone Tracy. Because if he hits, he's going to hit maybe not the magnitude of David Johnson, but he could be good enough to take over his backfield. Kamani
Yes.
Vidal, as good as Kamani Vidal is, he can be the best running back in the current Chargers backfield, but he's not the kind of running back that makes you say, okay, we have our running back position settled now. Tyrone Tracy has the all-around skill set and the physical traits and the upside as a player because he's just learning the position to be that guy.
Who can be the guy? And this one is, I don't know, bittersweet bloom. It's just going to be interesting to not see Derrick Henry in a Titans uniform. So, our final running back situation to discuss today, it is the Audible. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things to help us out on YouTube. Tony Pollard versus Derrick Henry. I'm not exactly sure what Will Levis is going to look like this year. I'm not predicting much. I know that with Baltimore, they're talking about maybe not necessarily a pitch count or snap count. There's your baseball talk, Bloom.
Yeah.
But like, they'll pick and choose. Henry will be the closer. Isn't that what was it Harbaugh who said that recently? I commented on our newswire at Football Guys, like they're going to use Derrick Henry as a closer. Okay, they can use him as more than that as well. But with Lamar Jackson there running around, how much does that take off of Henry's plate? How much of a closer can he be for a team that should be closing out a lot of games? So Tony Pollard versus Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
This is one of those, like, you got to make fantasy decisions. Can't ride two horses, one ass,
Yeah.
sugar plum.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. So make a decision.
Right. Where I come from, it would be go number 2 or get off the pot. Sorry, Joe. You got a choice. You got to make a. If you
Uh,
do not choose, you still have made a choice. Anyway, this is a fun one again because we're doing some comparisons of situations and running backs at the same time.
mhm.
And I like, again, my article came out last week, 10 ADP values that just don't make sense. Okay. And I think Derrick Henry is another one that just don't make sense because he was going in the late second last year with Tennessee that we all knew had the worst offensive line in the league. Like it was like the gap from 31 to 32 was that massive, right? Like if you're making offensive line rankings 2023, if Tennessee's not 32, then we just know tear up the rankings. This person doesn't know what they're talking about. Derrick Henry was running behind that line. And guess what? Derrick Henry didn't look bad. He didn't look like an aging running back. He didn't look like a declining running back. Given the opportunity he had in this offense that was in transition at quarterback, didn't have almost anything to work with at wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, whatever. Like you can't make a passing game out of just DeAndre Hopkins unless you have Kyler Murray running around. So you look at him then going to Baltimore, which is a dream situation. As
Yes.
Steelers fans see our hearts shudder in fear. That's the bitter part of the bittersweet
Yes.
because this is a hand and glove fit. Even him taking more carries out of the pistol and shotgun can be in this offense could be very scary. Because what do we know about Derrick Henry? Once you get to the second level, especially if it's a defensive back, I mean that's it. I mean if that guy doesn't bring down Derrick Henry in the open field, look out. He's going to get a lot of those opportunities to create those lookout moments. So yes, in the third round. So I said you don't have to take running back early, but second round Saquon Barkley if you're a believer. Third round Derrick Henry. Yeah, I'm a believer. Especially if you look at the wide receivers. You want a Texans wide receiver? Which one? The choices: DJ Moore now with Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. Some of the wide receivers in that same range. You're like, I don't know, but I know about Derrick Henry and put a pin also in Rasheen Ali, who they really liked. The Ravens really, really liked Rasheen Ali. Keep that in mind because he could be kind of a Justice Hill type, as Keaton Mitchell, who they also really like, is coming back from an ACL tear. On the Tennessee side, I'll tell you what fascinates me, Cease. I asked Matt Patonti about offensive line coaches because, of course, you hire Brian, you get the dad, Bill, in tow. And I love, being around football people, football guys. Matt Patonti brought up, I want to echo this point he brought up on the couch. The nice thing about bringing along Bill Callahan with his son Brian is you don't have to worry about infighting in the coaching staff where what if Bill and the offensive line outshines the offense? Well, if it's a different head coach, Brian Dable or something, well, maybe Brian Dable gets fired and Bill Callahan is an interim head coach candidate. But Bill's going to pull completely with his son. There's not going to be any sort of infighting. And he said in his model, he gives points values 1 to 5 for offensive line coaches. Okay. Bill Callahan, he said, is a 6. And it's not just his scheme and his success over the years. It's his ability to turn offensive linemen that other coaches couldn't do much with into solid offensive linemen. This is the job for him. So I am open to the idea that Bill Callahan makes this offensive line mediocre, middle of the league, at least from the 32nd, clearly 32nd, and they got JC Latham. They got their right tackle. They got their Mauler. And maybe it makes things easy enough for Will Levis that we have like a Daniel Jones kind of year where it's like, is he good? This offense was pretty, it overachieved. But then, unlike Daniel Jones, he's got Calvin Ridley. Okay. He's got DeAndre Hopkins now in tandem with Calvin Ridley. Oh, okay. And then you have these two interchangeable backs, and they're going around the same point in the draft as those Washington backs. So again, like maybe you don't like the Washington situation, maybe you like the Tennessee situation better, because with Tony Pollard, what did we want from him last year? A true running back one opportunity, and he got that, and it was a flop. And it's reasonable to say, as a hypothesis, well, maybe Dallas's handling of him was right all along. And he's a complimentary back, and that's how you're going to get the best out of him. And you could probably say the same thing about Tyjae Spears. You don't want to give Tyjae Spears 350 touches in a year. So you get the most out of these backs. They're interchangeable. If this offense overachieves, again, like the Washington offense, they could both overachieve. So do you want a Tennessee back? Do you want a Washington running back around the 8th, 9th round of your draft? Which offense you like better? Which quarterback? Which offensive coordinator? Which offensive line coach? All these things matter, and you're priming your brain as the torrent of news out of training camp is going to come, and how to sort through it and help you make better decisions.
Do you know what Tyjae Spears can be? He can be Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
With Dallas.
We wanted. Yeah.
He'll be the guy, like, he's behind the guy, but he's the better guy.
Right,
Like,
right.
yeah, that's what Spears is. So we will watch their careers with great interest. Bloom, I'm going to watch On the Couch this week with great interest, because you have a very special guest.
Yes, not on Wednesday, because when it's very, very important people, we meet them wherever we can. And then on Thursday, I'm going to be recording. The plan is to record with USA Today editor, all-time. So there's like a Mount Rushmore of alternative football coverage. Doug Farrar is on that Mount Rushmore.
1000%.
Doug Farrar is like, if you don't know the name Football Outsiders, if that doesn't mean anything to you, like look it up. Analytics, PFF, et cetera, none of that stuff in our community comes without Football Outsiders, without people like Doug Farrar, Mike Tenier, who we talked about when we try hopefully get him lined up on the couch during the slow season, which is the time that we can actually stretch out and talk some football, and the urgency of drafts and lineup setting isn't hanging over us. So I like the slow season because it means we get to talk to some very, very smart people on the couch.
I like that we have 3 YouTube channels for you to enjoy. Football Guys, the Audible, Fantasy Football Guys, and of course the Dynasty Show for Football Guys. Make sure to subscribe to all 3 and help us out, continue growing the YouTube channel. That's what we ask. And check out footballguys.com for that free daily newsletter. Bob Harris, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund Bloom, Joe Bryant, hell of a coordinary. That is our Football Guys free daily newsletter, available. Did I mention it was free? It's footballguys.com. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey, sane and shaving. Sane. The show is at the Audible. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out these videos over here. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?